Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is Damionblackgear, Ian Ellis, back to finally do some more Magic. Um, at this time, we are past GP Denver by about a week, so I expect things to just start to be rolling in on Magic Online. Legacy dailies have been firing very frequently. Unfortunately, I have not had the opportunity to play in any. This is actually going to be my first Magic Online Legacy match with intent to win. I'm gonna toss that in there since since I've been back pretty much tied up with a couple of different issues in personal life and busy. So yeah, let's get into changes. First off, starting from the top, we're gonna go right to left this time. So reverse order. We have Thrun. Thrun has been added simply to deal with the issue of Jace the Mind Sculptor and the other targeted removal. More importantly, Thrun is able to land against any Planeswalker beyond Liliana and start causing at least some type of panic from my opponent. So that's one way of actually dealing with them. Being able to survive any form of wrath effect that's being used in the format, with the exception of Terminus, has been very helpful. I did actually run him in Denver, and he definitely pulled his weight. Moving on, we've put the Eternal Witness back into the list. She's starting to pull her weight again. The format's slowed down, or I shouldn't say it's slowed down. The format's become more mid-range to control-y than it was aggro-y and tempo-based, so we can now use her a little bit more efficiently, whereas before it's like against Canadian Thresh or Rug Delve or whatever you want to call it. She's a little bit slow, she doesn't quite do enough, and she just didn't get there. Now that's not too much of an issue. The Rug Delver decks are being pushed out, as well as we've got new tools to help fight against them, which we'll get to in a moment. We've cut a Pulse. The Pulse has changed into an Abrupt Decay. We'll talk about that in a moment. Literally a moment. And that's simply because I'm just scrolling over to it. Um, there's only a singleton Abrupt Decay in the main, and I don't really intend to add more right now. The thoughts are possibly removing the JIT for an Abrupt Decay. There, like I said, the format isn't as many aggro decks, and the aggro decks I'm having a very easy time against, or I shouldn't say easy. They're not as difficult as they used to be. The added instant speed removal, the added lowered cost of the removal, the basically added removal has helped to deal with that problem. And JIT hasn't been pulling as much weight as it used to be. So if we're going to add another Abrupt Decay to the main, we're going to add it there. That being said, we have cut down on a Stoneforge Mystic. It was a, it is. I am all tongue-tied up right now. Yeah, it is the Eternal Witness now, and that's simply because she's strong. She's still strong. The Batterskull has been amazingly powerful. The bug decks have a hard time dealing with it overall. Yeah, you can Abrupt Decay the token, but when they have a choice between the token and the Stoneforge, just rebuying it, they have to go for the Stoneforge. Only one of their creatures actually swings over it, and it's a recurable creature that can sacrifice to Liliana, which is huge. That being said, she's the main problem in that matchup, and Thrun deals with her most of the time. But we do only have one Abrupt Decay, and the reason there is only one is because there are the... Restart later. That's interesting. I didn't even know my system updated. I didn't know I said yes to anything. The reason we only have one Abrupt Decay is simply because it has limitations on what it can do. It can only hit 3 or less, which is most of Legacy, but the important pieces that I need to actually kill aren't actually on that list, so that's one reason why. It's also a reason why there are the 2 pulses with the third, as opposed to having 2 more decays in the board. I'm figuring that I'm going to run into Jace a lot more than I'm going to run into Rug, so just my own personal thought. We've swapped the top to library count. The reason simply is I don't have to spend mana for this, as opposed to this. I know that this can get decayed, and honestly, I'm kind of hoping that it does, and I'm kind of hoping that it doesn't. I'd rather them decay my library in most cases than my Bob. So, I mean, if I can stick them both, I'd like them to have to make a difficult decision and go from there. Also, with the Moxes being there, I'd rather be able to just play library and have a continual source, as opposed to going, okay, turn 1, do this, turn 2, okay, now I'm at 3 mana, turn 3, okay, back to 2, or back to 3, and not progress forward. Whereas with library, it's like, okay, turn 1, I get to play at 2. Turn 2, I'm at 3. Turn 3, I'm at 4. Turn 4, I'm at 5. I'd like to keep that progression and just actually keep escalating and just start being able to do all this stuff together. Let's see. Last change. Deathrite Shaman. There's only a singleton Deathrite Shaman. I am still on the Mox build. I'm not thinking that I'm going to veer away from that too soon. It's still very helpful to start on turn 2. And even though I'm not hemming and using as much discard as everybody else is, I feel that there's still a good enough reason as to not getting rid of them. There are matchups where they do come out, and we will talk about those when they come up. But for right now, one Deathrite Shaman. Honestly, the only reason this guy made it in over Bird is because he's a 2-butt. I didn't realize that when I first looked at him. I thought he was a 0-1, just the same as Bird, Hierarch, and the rest of them. And it turns out that he was a 1-2, which made him better than all of them because he blocked Lackey. That's the entire reasoning behind that, if you really wanted to know. I don't think that 4 is a good number. I don't have enough fetches to support 4. I know that I can counter my opponent, but not every deck plays fetches. It's just something to have to rely on, and he's not a guaranteed mana, which is another huge thing against him. But that's not exactly what he's there for. The Bird was originally there for color fixing. He's there for color fixing. He's just got some added bonuses. Alright, moving into the board, we have the Singleton Abrupt Decay, which I've talked about. We have the second one down here because there are times that I'm going to want 2. I figure that there will probably be times that I want 3, but right now I don't want to try and fit that in. We'll work with how it is right now, and then we'll go from there. Singleton Duress, again, this is for the control matchups, for burn, for anything that I'm going to run into that's going to basically need it. And the format is still at a position where Duress, I feel, is better than Inquisition of Kozilek. You look at all of your decks, they're either combo decks, in which case the things that you're taking cost more than 3, or are show and tell, which this can get all of them with the exception of a creature. So if they have 2 show and tells, I'm SOL. If they have Omnipres or Omnishow, whatever, Omniscience, there we go. Omniscience. If they have Omniscience, this is the only one that can get them. I know it's Omniscience, but I think it's funny it's spelled Omniscience. Alright. So, Duress, and even with the 2 show and tell situation, with Inquisition, you'd still only get the 1 show and tell. So I feel that this solves all of the problems. It gets sneak attack, it gets Omniscience, it gets all of the problems, which is what's more key. Moving on, 2 Gaddock Teagues, we've upped the count. Miracles is a thing, and Miracles doesn't care about Thalia. That's why there are 2 of these now as opposed to 1. It was something that I saw somebody else do. It was Matt Pap. Oh God, Matt, I forgot your name, and I'm sorry if you're watching this. I forgot your last name. I know you as Matt. Yeah, I saw him do it. I had actually been thinking about it, but definitely watching it in action was a little bit better to see. Moving on, we have the Golgari Charms, which have replaced Zealous Persecution. And even though I have a bunch of creatures that will die to it, let's just try and find them all. There we go. And I guess persisted this guy. Having the ability to regen your team post-deed, which is huge, as well as blow up enchantments, so that includes moats that people may play, is also huge. I did get into a matchup against Enchantress, and it turns out that this card is the actual nuts against Enchantress, because not only does it kill the enchantment, but it also kills Argothian Enchantress. So, that's a thing. Moving forward, 2 Kitchen Finks. As you see, there's no more timely reinforcements, and the reason we switched from timely to Finks is simply because of this lady. Finks can survive 1 sacrifice and keep going, so it's not the actual worst when you have 1 creature down, and it gives me something that I can Green Sun Zenith for at 3 and basically kind of trick them into letting me get. Because if they have Lily in their hand and they let me Green Sun Zenith for 3, they're thinking I'm going to go get Knight. Maybe Witness if they've seen it game 1, but typically they'll think I'm going to get Knight just to apply pressure, start ruining their mana base, and to be able to get something that can survive all of their removal and still keep going is more of an annoyance. So it's something for them to have to think about, to have to play around, and it also works well with another card we'll get into later. We've added the extra Liliana to the board simply mainly because the card is that good. Other people are starting to catch on to that. The original setup that I had for this didn't really work as well with having the extra Lily in the board, but I'm thinking now that the format's a little bit slower, a little more Planeswalker based, it'd be nice to have another Vindicate for other Liliana, as excuse me, as well as just have an extra Liliana to get excuse me, wow, that was weird, to get there faster. It's one of the worst cards that Miracles can see because of the Factor Fiction, which is a pseudo Armageddon, as well as one of the worst cards that any other mid-range deck can see, because most of them are one-for-oneing with their creatures. I mean, this is a two-for-one essentially, like, in theory. You get 2 cards out of the one, but you have to play the second one. But yeah, there aren't a lot of, you don't see that many Lingering Souls, you don't see that many things that put down multiple creatures. Like, you see Siege Gang Commander, but by that time, one, if I get hit by the lackey, the game is in bad situations already. And 2, if they're landing a Siege Gang Commander on me, she's either already been out, or we're in game 2, in which case she's not as good. We can always hope, though. Yeah, the extra pulse, like I said before, I think I'll see more Jace than I will things that I need to kill at instant speed that cost less than 3. Surgical Extraction still has a spot. Uvenwald Tracker, actually on the outs. Because there aren't as many creature-based decks, Uvenwald Tracker is one of the cards that I'm really on the fence about. And that's simply because without another creature in play and without you fighting another creature deck, it's kind of pointless. It gums up the ground. It does a great job at that. It breaks stalemates. And when I say gums up the ground, I mean it makes combat very weird, because it gives you the opportunity to basically 2-for-1 with a creature. Your guy may be dying in a bad block or in a block that's going to go south at the end of it, but you can at least kill their guy that you didn't block and the other guy. But that's neither here nor there. Not really a major concern anymore. Used to be when Maverick was a little bit more heavily played, but not as much anymore. So lastly, we have Volrash Stronghold. This card is back in. There was a point in time where it was in all of the rock decks, and all of those decks ran it religiously. It was one of the few cards that was really on the fence when I was building the Night mana base for this thing, and actually got cut for Core Haven at the time because I was mostly white. There were Vindicates, there were Elspeth, there were all these different things, or not Elspeth, but Armageddon. Elspeth came later. So it was white based, so this kind of upset the mana. Now we're turning back towards the black based version, so this comes back in, as well as there being a lot of removal in the format, and having the ability to recur creature to just go drop my knight in through your counter, drop my knight in through your counter, or drop my knight into your decay, drop my knight into your decay. Do you have an answer yet? It's time consuming and it can be restrictive, but it is something that is real. Also, it works really well with Thrun. So yeah, that's a thing. Thrun, Finks, Witness, anything with a come into play ability, with the exception of this limited one here, which I guess that was all of my come into play abilities. So yeah, we will give this a shot. We're back, and there's a daily in about an hour. We're going to try and get that taken care of, and I will see you all later. Bye-bye.